Greetings and welcome to the Real Nitty Gritty. I'm Abdul Speaks. I wanted to talk to you guys about something today. I'm excited to get this out and hopefully clear the air on a few things. Really important because obviously the talk of the day a lot of times around the internet is over relationships. And it's particularly heavy inside of the black community. And it's a lot of finger pointing, finger blaming, and things of that nature. And well, what about the men? And well, the women do this. And I wanted to get into that and kind of clear the air on where I stand when I speak on it and why I speak on it. But it's not the only thing that we talk about here at the Real Nitty Gritty. We talk about world events. We talk about history. We talk about all types of things and discuss all types of events. But I just wanted to clear the air for myself. It's like I am not against women at all. I don't subscribe to red pill thinking, although there are components of it that I do agree with. And I think most men will agree with a certain portion of it. I think some women, a lot of women would, if they listen to it, agree with certain portions of it. But in its entirety, no, I think it's a lot of finger pointing for the purpose of trying to put men above women in some type of way. And I'm not for that, I do believe in a patriarchy. I do believe in a hierarchy. Archy means rulership. I do believe in leadership and rulership. But I believe in fair, equitable leadership and rulership. I don't think a leader is above the people that they're leading. I don't think that the person in a leadership position should ever be above the law. I don't think a person in a leadership position should ever be using their position for self-advantage and self-gain, right? So a leader has to be very benevolent. And we'll get into that and how I see that. And we'll equate it not just to man-woman direct relationships, but how it equates to the world stage and what's been going on in the world stage to use the same systems to divide us that they've used to divide the world, right? So that's what I want to talk about is the hierarchy, right? And the hierarchy, the chain of command and rulership and leadership. You have a patriarchy, you have a matriarchy, you have anarchy, right? We have oligarchies, right? We have monarchies. And we want to talk about how this affects us as individuals because I was taught that the first government was the family. And the family being the first government is where we have a lot of our issues. And what was happening is we're seeing a breakdown in our own personal governance to a huge degree, and is happening systematically. And this is why we're having the challenges that we have. So first of all, when it comes to male-female relationships, I always say this when the men are complaining about they can't, the decent men. I'm not talking about the other ones. There's a lot of men, especially in America. And I'm a guy's guy. Guys always gravitate to me, and I'm one of those guys that just guys gravitate to me. When I was younger, I wish women would have gravitated to me like that, but believe it or not, it was always guys. I never had to set out to make a friend. Every time I sat quietly in a corner, if I did it for a day or two, pretty soon there was 2 people in the corner, then 10 people, then I always met the fellas. Wherever I go, I have no problem meeting guys. So I kind of know, and plus my life, I played basketball. I was into sports. I was, I did different things to where I met a lot of people in business and construction, things of that nature. So I was always around guys. And I say that to say that in America, for my daughters and my sisters, I don't sugarcoat the intentions of the average man. The intentions of the average man when it comes to women in the hemisphere that we live in, I would not want that for my kin. I'm just being honest with you. I wouldn't want it. Like I would weed out 80% of them just off the rip. Just 80%. I wouldn't weed it out. So with that being said, let's examine what legitimate issues that a lot of decent, when I say good, like it's hard to call yourself good, right? Just decent, someone who's trying to be good, somebody that tries to do the right thing, somebody who has at least the right focus or desires, right? Like he's his intentions. That's what I meant to say. Someone with the right intentions, right? So let's just weed out 70. Let's just say 70%. Let's weed out 70%. We're going to err on the side of modesty and deal with the 30% out there that are decent, right? Well, the 30% decent are having issues finding compatible mates, and they're having complaints. And I feel like a lot of the issues, most of the issues and complaints are legitimate, right? And I'm a Black American, so I really see it in our community, right? There's a breakdown for the guys that are decent, and I want to explore this breakdown and what the guys' legitimate complaints are and where they come from. But before we get into that, I just want to preference this, and we'll say this through the segment. I want to tell the men, all the men out there, it's our fault. That's just off the rip. I want to start with that. It is our fault. And I will tell you why it's our fault as I go through the hierarchy, right? The hierarchy of how things are put into place, right? So if the man is the natural born ruler, meaning that he has a rank, a position of authority that supersedes the women in the natural order. I believe that we have a rank above. And when we're talking about a rank, we're not talking about, again, the quality or the importance of the human being. We're no more important than anybody else. Women, every woman on the planet is just as important as every man on the planet. We have equal importance. We have equal value. You having a rank doesn't put you and make you more valuable than the next person. It just means that you have a certain level of charge and a certain level of responsibility to those individuals, right? That's where the rank comes in. So let's be clear about what I say rank, and don't mistaken that with value, because I think some people are now talking about who's the prize. That's a bunch of fooling. I don't believe in no who's the prize. We come with equal value. She comes with the value in this arena, and I come with a value in that arena. And inside of the arenas, there's a mirroring of value, right? But some things are more unique to the woman and some things are more unique to the man. We need each other, period. We need each other. So don't mistake rank with value. You don't have any more value than someone else just because you have a rank. You're put in a position of authority that may give you a certain sense of leadership, but also with leadership comes great responsibility. So this is a natural occurring thing that's going on around the world forever, right? But when you take your leadership and you try to use it to your personal advantage, then you're not taking responsibility. It shouldn't be for your advantage. It should be for the advantage of the family, of the group, not for you. There we go. So inside of this, what we have is we have a society of men. And this society of men has allowed another group, the colonizers, to take authority and liberty and in a very sneaky way to contaminate the male-female relationships. And I think we all know about what the wicked welfare system was made out of. I mean, I remember we found on the very food stamp booklet itself the agricultural sign with the hoe leaning against the tree. And then there's a way that you could look at that in a certain way. If you guys ever have an old booklet of the Department of Agricultural sign, and that hoe leaning against the tree that represented agriculture, if you looked at it a certain way, it was a dragon with a bunch of snakes coming out of its head. So I believe that society should have a safety net for people. I believe that society should have programs like that for people. I, for one, when I was a kid, we spent part of our time living with that benefit or that aid. So I'm not knocking anyone who's getting the benefit of the aid, but it comes at a very high cost. And the cost is inside of the laws and bylaws. They angled it purposefully to keep the man out of the house, right? And so what they're trying to do is get away from patriarchy and get into a matriarchy. And so we saw a shift after all of the progress we did as the Black community, after what they call the Reconstruction period, after the hard Jim Crow laws came. They shifted it to more of a matriarchy, right? And believe it or not, even during slavery, the Black family, outside of the control of the white slave masters, was still under what they call a matriarchy, because the men were sold off and separated from their families. So there's this constant thing to keep the man away from his own family. Even, of course, they sold the women's children off from them too. But this is to shatter the family unit and shatter this family structure. Remember, the first government is the family, right? Then we have the community, then we have tribes, and then we have the country or whatever you live in, right? This is why they call it the United States, because each state has its own governance. Each city has its own governance. And then they collectively come together as one big government. Well, we were, because of our refusal as men to turn our backs on an age-old enemy. This is what's happening in our community. We are trying to latch on to something that is just simply not good for us. That's the bottom line. And this is why I say it's the men's fault. It's a man up top who's orchestrating the demise of your family, and it's us as men who fell for the okie doke. We're trying to hold on to this as our friend and as our patriotism and these things like that. And on the flip side of it, it's destroying our family and our children and our community. Because at the end of the day, the enemy is the enemy. The enemy sees you, but you don't see the enemy. So we've been at war as a community and never knew it. Because we think war is just guns and bombs and bullets, but war is a lot more. When you destroy my pride, my self-esteem, my alliances, my credit, everything that I have that makes other people perceive me as valuable as a human being, you've went to war with me. You've destroyed my alliances. You destroyed my connections. We as humans are communal people. They try to sell us on individuality to make us powerless. No individual has any power, any real significance by themselves. If you take a human being and put them out in the forest by themselves, then you have a bear in the forest by itself. The bear is superior to the human being. There's one bear by itself is doing better than one human being by themselves, right? So human beings have to have a collective mind and a collective experience to express who they are in the world as superior to the animals, right? And so when you try to make every human being an individual, you break up that human experience. The real human experience comes from the collective. So let's talk about, also go back to the hierarchy. So any rulership, the first priority of rulership is always cooperation. And you could take other countries for an example who've achieved so much. China, for example, is an excellent example of cooperative thinking. So that's the benevolence of a ruler. A ruler has to be tiered in having power and control. He starts with cooperation. And he or she, I mean, women can rule too. It starts with cooperation, right? And then it moves into, after cooperation, we have pressure. We build up pressure. And then after the pressure is built up, the pressure builds into a force. Then after the force builds up, one of the things you have is the ability to apply force or relieve the force, right? There's a start and stop. So when people are in authority and rulership, one of the things that they do if you try to go against it, is they basically exile you. You know, if you're in my company and you don't do what I say, I'm going to apply pressure, right? But before I apply pressure, I'm going to get you to cooperate. I'm going to get you to cooperate by paying you and treating you well and making it a win-win situation for you and a win situation for me. I don't want to apply any pressure. I want you to cooperate. I want you to be happy to be here. If you start doing A, B, and C, I'm going to apply pressure. I'm going to say, hey, if you do this, we're going to write you up. Or if you do that, you won't get a raise. If you do this well, then you will get a raise. So that's putting the pressure on you, right? If that doesn't work, you know, I've amassed enough force. I've amassed force through the cooperation. I've amassed wealth. I've amassed ability to pay you well. I've amassed the ability to take care of you and do good things and give you all types of benefits. And now what I'm going to use is the concept of exile. If you continue to don't do it, the pressure is to exile you, kick you out of the company, right? Now, at the end of the day, all of this has to be backed by a particular thing that people hate to talk about. It has to be backed by violence. And he said, whoa, you don't need to do that. Yes, everything is backed by violence. Meaning, if I tell you to leave and you don't leave, how am I going to get you to leave? If you're willing to say, you know, F you, man, I'm staying here and I'm going to take your money, then what's my play then? My play is to sit down and shut up? No, I have to back that with violence. Unfortunately, I understand you guys don't like hearing that, but every rulership has to be backed by force and the force of arms. So if you're in a company and you don't want to put any violence, or you aren't a practicing martial artist, or you don't keep a gun handy, then you're going to call the cops. And then they're going to be your backing of violence. You're going to have the law on your hand. It has to be backed by a structure. Because at the end of the day, if you're not going to allow me to change you through force, pressure, and exile, then at the end of the day, we have to back it by something. So these are the stair steps of rulership. Interestingly, the Western imperialists have a practice of what they call regime change and installing what they call puppet governments all over the world. And you can see this happening today with Iran and the people who are around Iran. The people who are around Iran have never actually held power over their own governments. They were put in power. And that's why the United States put their military bases there to protect them. Why did they have to put military bases there to protect them? Because they're not the natural rulers of the place. They haven't ruled through the reality of a patriarch or monarchy. The reality of a patriarchy and monarchy is that you have to use enough cooperation to exert enough force to establish yourself. And once you're established through cooperation, you will be able to carve out a territory for yourself and protect it yourself with enough force of arms, of violence. So what they do is they pick a weaker vessel. They pick a weaker vessel who's smaller, who doesn't have the cooperation of the people and can't possibly defend itself. It's not a masculine reality of that territory, right? It hasn't had enough power. So the United States will go in and take the smaller, less accepted, the people who had less cooperation amongst the masses, and place them in power and back them with their force of arms. Therefore, they will always be able to control them. They won't even have to go to war with them. All they have to do is say, you know what? We're not going to protect you anymore. So your people are going to come in and swallow you up. They couldn't do that with Iran because Iran actually was not backed by anybody. They created enough cooperation amongst them people to establish their own force. I said all of that to talk about relationships. When that welfare system came and it paid somebody for not doing something other than getting rid of the man, it created an unnatural and unreal authority. And so the authority that the mothers under that system had was actually no authority at all. It wasn't based in reality. It was based in a government system that backed you up. So now the very government that put us in slavery and mistreated us under Jim Crow is basically, in effect, raising our children, right? And this began to be a major shift over time in the thinking of the family dynamic and the thinking of relationships. And I said all of that to say that there's actually teachings in school now against a thing called patriarchy. Well, you have to have some archy. If you don't have a patriarchy, then you must have a what? A matriarchy. So if you're arguing against patriarchy, which is male rulership and governance, then you must be for matriarchy, which is female rulership and governance. You can't have both. In order for someone to rule, someone has to have a rank above the other. We can't have equal rank because rulership requires someone to be in charge. If everyone is in charge, you don't have rulership. You have another archy called anarchy. And so you can see the anarchy in our community a lot of times because ultimately no one's in charge. And so what we want to do is we want to have a decent society that is not falling into anarchy. Everybody do whatever they want to do. So this is important to have success. If you want to have success as a nation, as success as a community, success as a family, you can't have anarchy. And your rulership has to be backed by the proper channels of cooperation all the way down to force of arms. If it's not, then you're not in charge. If someone else is protecting you with the force of arms, then you're not in charge. Who better to have all tiers of rulership than the man? But the men have abandoned their post. The men are raised under this 50-50 leadership concept, right? I don't believe in a 50-50. If somebody asks me, do you believe in 50-50? No, I don't believe in 50-50. I believe in 100-100. You give 100% and I'm going to give 100%. But we're going to stay in our respective lanes, right? And it's not about putting yourself above someone. It's about being responsible because your brain is capable, if you use it, to see things that others can't see. Like this podcast that I have here, right? It doesn't abide by what they call political correctness. It doesn't abide by trying to placate to everyone else's feelings, right? It doesn't abide by caring if you like me or dislike me, right? And so it's masculine in and of itself. It's a masculine thought process. You can't find it in a book. I'm not regurgitating what just things that someone else told me, right? It's independent thought and it's independent of what you think about it. I'm going to say I don't care, but I don't care. It doesn't change my speech. what you think. It doesn't change my speech if I get 2 likes or 2 million likes. It doesn't change what's going to come out of my mouth, right? And there's more men that can talk like that than women. They're going to more or less mirror what's around them. And that's dangerous because we're not in a friendly environment. We're not in an environment that is made for our families to prosper, right? And this is why we find ourselves on the bottom of every socio-economic ladder that you can think of after being here as long as we have. We were climbing fast at one point in time in what they call the Reconstruction era, but now they've put in place these psychological warfare games, and we've fallen for it hook, line, and sinker. The church fell for it, right? And one of the biggest enemies we have is media and entertainment. The media and entertainment has us idolizing, idol worshiping the entertainers. It's not so much that the music itself is the biggest problem, even though it is. You talk about music and you talk about actors and entertainers, but they have a new thing out where we idolize these people. We take them on interviews and we gossip about their lives and their relationships. And all of that is staged, man. And all of that, believe it or not, is a recipe for failure. The average one of us is looking up to these entertainers as successful people. And we're not looking to the real successful neighborhoods. When you go to a successful neighborhood, there's usually none or hardly any entertainers there. They represent a small percentage of financially successful people, a very, very dismally small. I mean, not even 1%, not even 1% of wealthy people are in the entertainment industry, not even 1%. But our children are patterning themselves and thinking this is what success looks like, when in reality, someone's created it as an illusion and made them an example of what failure looks like, right? Having tattoos running up your neck and on your eyeball is not a successful thing to do, right? The behavior, the type of women that the men pick and the type of men that the women pick is a recipe for failure in most cases. Their speech, their language, everything about them is a recipe for failure. And it only works when you're handpicked out of a crowd of millions of people to be the one person to represent this singer or this actor or this rapper. And that's the only place that works in. It's the only place. And this is what all of the children are emulating, right? And this is dangerous because at the end of the day, it's all a recipe for failure and not a recipe for success. They're not emulating the local doctors and the local dentist and the local stock brokers and the local business owners and the people who have, even the poor people who have successfully raised children in some harsh, poor environments. They're not emulating that, right? They're not emulating the spiritual people and the people with high moral fiber and the people who have refined themselves, right? So this has become what I call the anti-culture in the Black community. And us men, as a collective, we're responsible. You didn't want to take responsibility, but you're responsible. I remember when I was coming up, they had plenty of songs out talking about pimping this, pimping that, pimping this, pimping that. And the word was pimping, pimping, pimping. Well, guess what? Congratulations. Your community has been officially pimped. They've been pimped. And this is why they walk out the door unashamed to look like what we used to call a $20 whore. They look like a streetwalker, right? They have mannerisms like streetwalkers. They're happy and they're laughing and they can't wait to spank each other's behinds in public and do all of these lewd things because they've been pimped. They've been pimped by the media. And the men of the community either sat back and watched or participated in it. And they think they're doing something because they're accepted by that 70% man. That 70% man is no good. It's the 30% man that is good that has a legitimate complaint, right? But at the end of the day, this all came because you deferred your patriarchal rule to a matriarchal rule, which brought you closer to anarchy. I'm going to repeat that again. You deferred your patriarchal rulership, your responsibilities for a matriarch, and you let the matriarchs become the responsible party. And they brought you closer into anarchy. And at the end of the day, it's the man's fault. So I'm coming to you a little different angle than what you're used to with the usual people who talk about relationships. This is by design. They don't want to talk to the proper authority. They don't want to allow the proper authorities to be in charge. They don't want the truly dominant, the truly masculine, the truly righteous individuals to head up anything. They've always tried to assassinate our leaders. There's a scripture in the Bible where King Herod had all of the babies aged 2 and under killed because he didn't want to give the throne up to the newborn king, right? And so this Messiah, they've always been after the Messiah, the little Messiahs, the baby Messiahs. They've always trying to uproot that male image that could come in and rule and impress and get the people to cooperate from a masculine perspective. Because at the end of the day, they're doing this same game that they're doing on us. They're doing it to other nations. You think you're not a nation with 40 million people? They're doing it to other nations. And this is how you are in anarchy. You're what they call a failed state. This is what the U.S. CIA policy is globally. They call it destabilization. They're trying to destabilize the government. And this is what they've done is they destabilized us. So you got human beings running around here not performing as a human being. You can get paid for your failure. You get to fail and still eat. The scriptures say those that don't work don't eat. We live in a society where you cannot work or think and still eat. They're paying you for being dysfunctional. Then they grab the most dysfunctional member of your society and throw $50 million at them. A lot of times they don't really have money. It's an illusion. But you think they threw $50 million on them, put them on TV, make them famous. The most dysfunctional, despicable characters that you could ever think of. It's hard to imagine the type of dysfunction that they're having us idolize. It becomes your true worship and your true God. Your true worship and your true God is money and fame. And you think your daughters and sons don't look at this? Ask them what they want to be when they grow up. And tell me how many of them say something that has to do with entertaining. I'm not against entertainment. I'm against this wicked display of entertainment. So this is my general summary of what we're looking at when we're talking about male-female relationships here in the United States of America. It's not all over the world. Most of the world don't have any of the same problems and issues that we do. But we live in a world where you can't say anything or tell anybody anything without them trying to tell you, you're trying to control me. As soon as I hear that, my radar goes up. That means that she's not really your woman. That's what it means. She's not your woman. If she says you're trying to control me, that means that she's still stuck in hyper-individualism. What were you trying to get her to do? Was you trying to get her to do something that only benefited you? Or was you trying to get her to do something that benefited both of you? Was you trying to get her to do something that was evil and decadent? Or was you trying to get her to do something that represented refinement, culture, and righteousness? Because if she's rejecting your refinement, culture, and righteousness, she's rejecting you, God, and everybody else for her own independent ability to be in anarchy. Father means controller. So you don't want to be in control, under control. It means you want to be out of control, which means you want anarchy. And if your voice doesn't matter to where you can't bring things under control, that's a level of disobedience and arrogance that you're going to have to either change or walk away from. Because now you're going to spiral into anarchy, dealing with somebody that's out of control and not willing to be put under control. Now, if you're asking to do something just for your own personal selfish gain, I can't speak for you. You're not a benevolent leader. You're not a benevolent ruler. And if you don't have benevolence, then you're not coming from the same place that I'm coming from. I'm not going to ask a person to do anything for me that I'm not willing to do for them, or even more. They're going to be required less to do for me than I do for them. I'm going to make sure of it. I'm going to make sure whatever I ask you to do for me, I'm going to make sure that I've done more for you. It's not even going to be equal. It's going to be less than. And if I can't do as much as I used to do, I'm going to require less of you. That's called benevolence. We're only trying to look out for each other and the group and the community. And if it doesn't have an implication, and then why are you opening your mouth? You're not a leader. You're just a person who's trying to belittle others and promote and elevate yourself. But even when you don't have that spirit and you're coming from a righteous place, you're going to get major kickback and feedback and mouth and aggression in our community. And nobody else has to deal with it globally. Nobody else has to go through that as a man globally. This is by design to take the power out of the family structure, take the power out of the community, take the power out of the relationship. The relationship doesn't have any real value because it can't manifest anything. It's just two people who are keeping each other company and satisfying, on and off sexual urges. You know, sexual urges don't last all day if you're sane. If you're sane, you're not thinking about that all day. You know, if you bought into this society and this freakish culture, then you're thinking about it all day. That's a distraction. You're a slave. You have what they call an addiction. Your mind's not clear. You're not operating at the highest frequency. You should have a lot of things better to think about. If it comes across your screen here and there, then you're normal, you're healthy. But if your relationship is based on just, having somebody to kick it with and having sex, then you've minimized the importance of a woman, and that woman has minimized the importance of a man. You guys don't even know what it is all about to have a relationship, because we're going to need unity to survive, especially what's going on right now today. I'm going to repeat that. We're going to need unity to survive, especially what's going on right now today. The black family has never had the luxury of having a one-income society ever in the history of us being in America. The one-income society was primarily for Caucasians. And that was in like the 40s and 50s. It itself was short-lived. Because if you go back beyond that, maybe they had a longer run of what you could legitimately call a one-income society. But the time that they had it in the agrarian age, the women had such hard work. We didn't have washing machines. We didn't have grocery stores on every corner. We didn't have cars. So when you're talking about staying at home, that was a serious task. I don't know who had it easier, the man or the woman. You didn't have milk delivered to your house or milk from the grocery store. You had to go to a cow and squeeze the titty to get the milk. They was churning butter back then. They didn't have refrigerators back then. And you got a family and you're cooking one or two meals or 3 meals a day. You was working your tail off. We live in a different age, so we have to adjust to the age that we live in. We don't live in an agrarian age. We live in the industrial age and now the technological age, right? So the amount of work, we're going back to the one income family, we've always had to have 2 incomes as a people to survive. We're now walking into a 3 income society. We're actually walking into the collapse of a society. Which, by the way, I'm going to give you a plug right now. We're talking about the collapse of a society. Here's my book, and I'm very proud of what we did here. It's called Diagram of a New World, and the tagline is The Birth of a New Mind During the Collapse of a Global Empire. We're so near the end, and as the scriptures say, if you believe in scriptures, that Babylon must fall. And it also talks about the house of Jacob. And it said that the strangers who were brought to the house of Jacob, that they cleaved unto the house of Jacob. Right? So I know that is talking about us as a people, how we cleave. You know, although we've been physically let free and legally let free, we're the ones that are cleaving to this. We're cleaving to the idea of this. And it's so contaminating. It's so polluted. And we're chasing this thing called an American dream. We're being sold hope and faith in something that isn't even real. And we're chasing a carrot on a stick. You know? If you ever seen, I used to go to the dog tracks when I was a kid. They had the dog races near my house. And they would put the greyhound dogs there and they'd have a carrot on a stick and they put a rabbit on a stick, I'm sorry. And they put that rabbit out there and it would be on a string and it'd go around the track and they'd be chasing it. I've never seen one of them animals catch that rabbit. And you say, here come the rabbit, 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 rabbit. Not one of them ever caught it. But they run their hearts off chasing it. That's us. We're chasing something that you're never going to get. I can speak because I went through the ranges of success. I done went from having nothing to definitely having more than most people. You know, I've had more than most. I'll say that. I'm never put myself that I'm some big time. No, but I have had more than most. And I've lost it and got it back again. And let me tell you something. Nothing gets you the fulfillment other than your family and your relationship with the people and your relationship with yourself. If you got a good relationship with yourself and the people in the community, then I think that's everything that a God ever asked you to do. And that's where it comes down to. When you're in your deathbed, you don't think about how much money is in your bank account. You don't think about, how much money you spent or the shiny shoes. That'll never come across your head. And I know because I've had multiple experiences where I could have been out of here. And that's not what you're going to think about because that's not where it's at. But they're selling you something for you to chase it so that you don't realize your real predicament, that you're wasting your time and space and energy as a human being trying to chase this rabbit on a stick. Give it up. Have some humility. Stop being arrogant. According to the scriptures, it says that we were hard-headed and stiff-necked people. This is what I'm trying to get across to you as a hard-headed, stiff-necked people who are cleaving to the house of Jacob. Some of y'all think you're supposed to be saving the house of Jacob. But the scriptures didn't say he came to the house of Jacob or he came to save Israel. He came to save the lost sheep in the house of Israel Who is the lost sheep in the house of the modern day Israel? The modern day Israel, the new home that they were given according to scriptures is right here in the United States of America. And we're cleaving to them. And they've done nothing but wickedness to us. They done pimped us out. And so all of that 90 songs, pimping this, pimping that, 2000, pimping, I'm pimping. They done pimped your women out. Now your little girls look like they own a host stroke. They start them off at 5 in their little tight mini dresses. You're following the Epstein perverts. You can't get them out of it. They love it. You always wonder as a man how a prostitute does what she does for her pimp, and the pimp don't even pay her. She works in the cold. She works in dangerous environments. She's disgraced and humiliating herself, and he takes all of her money, every dime. Well, you see it now? Because it's hard to tell your woman or your daughters, don't dress like that. Don't put that on. They love it. They love the disgrace and humiliation because it gives them a thing called attention. People say, well, a man, he must be insecure with himself. Well, as a man, that's one of the things I'm supposed to do is be in charge of security. You're a security breach. How would you feel if your man walked out there outside with his underwear on and went to the grocery store and had an underwear and tank top and went with you to the mall and went with you to go to the gathering with your friends? Would that make you jealous or would that make you disgusted? Would that bring you shame? You guys think it's all about whether or not other guy's hitting on you. Everything. No, it's shameful behavior. It's despicable. How am I going to hold my head up high with my friends when my friends just saw my woman's ass and titties? And they looking at it. And I'm trying to be respectable and trying to be dignified. And she's trying to be a harlot and a hoe. And they know it. Every man knows what that means. Why are you showing your breast off? You cleaving to the house of Jacob. You're not respectable. It's not dignified. And nobody should have to tell a human being to do that. Human beings all over the world, the first thing they do when they get out of the woods and stuff is start putting clothes on. And the more they come into civilization, the more clothes they wear to cover their shame. If you was out in the wild, uncivilized, and you was just trying to figure out where to eat and which tree to live to go under to get out the rain, then you'd be pardoned from all of this. But you come into what humans are made for, which is building civilization, and we should be acting civilized. Have some dignity and some respect. Have some respect for your family. Have some respect for your community. Have some respect for yourself and your people. I'm telling you, somebody done pimped the overwhelming majority of y'all. You've been pimped. You literally have been pimped. And it's the men's fault because the men helped participate in it and the men didn't go against it. Because 70% of y'all ain't nothing but freaks. 70% of y'all is gone, man. I hear you all the time. All you thinking about, ooh, look at that. I want to get that. Ooh, I want to get that. And you ever thinking, man, Abdul never said that. I never nod my head and say, yeah. Why you want to tell another man about your sexual urges and fantasies? I'm not gay. I don't even want to think about you and sex at the same time. every time you tell me, oh man, I'm going to do this today, I'd like to do that. Every time you tell me, it disgusts me. It's disgusting. I'm not saying I lived a perfect life, but I try to do my best. I try to still strive to get it right. I'm not going to head headlong into the abyss of filth and decadence. No, I don't want to hear nothing about your sex, man. If you said to me, hey, man, that's just, ooh, look at her, she's beautiful. I'm with you. When I'm single, especially, I'm with you. Oh, man, she is beautiful. Yeah, that's fine. She's fine. I get you with that. When you start, man, I like to do that. And I'm like, man, is this some gay tendencies? Is it me? Why you want to, I can't even imagine, I don't want to think about no guy having any type of sexual relationships with one. It doesn't compute. It's disturbing. But they all, and I say all, so many guys are stuck on this page thinking that that's cool. And half of the ones that I'm hearing saying this are married. And you think it's cool. I mean, when does it end? You're married and you're out here with all of these women. You couldn't get another woman? If you was really the guy, then you would have like the other countries did. You'd have 2 women. You ain't even got 2 women or 3 women. You got 1 woman and you sleeping around with all of these different women. That's perverted, man. That's disgusting behavior. And you can't tell me that you're not part of how these women got turned out and tricked out, and that they're turning their tricked out, freaked out minds back onto their daughters and sons. And now you got a whole generation that's coming up that's been turned out because their mama was turned out because some men turned her out. And yeah, I'm talking about you sisters that have been pimped, but I'm talking about you men. You men are responsible. You men are perverted. You men have not lived up to what you're supposed to be in the community. Otherwise, this could have never happened. It's a bunch of men that's co-signing that and will argue against me trying to put the clothes back on the woman, trying to put the dignity back on the woman, because you're a bunch of freaks. Because you think you benefit from it. Well, neither one of y'all benefit from it. Both of you just doing something disgusting. There's no benefit. You running around here chasing every skirt that goes up and down the street. How many of them are you taking care of? How many of them are you putting something into other than your nastiness? You're turning them out, man. You're messing up the community for generations. We can't brag on our weaknesses. We got to brag on our strengths. Tell me how many sisters you turned down. Now, I'm not saying that I haven't done something, but I ain't done it. I wasn't intentional. I ain't done it on that level. I would rather brag like the brothers. Every time I hear, man, I've been married for 35 years. I look up at him and like, woo, I wish I could say that. It's been rough out here. That's the man that can brag. Not you old freaks out here that's freaking off and jacking up the community, jacking up the future children and the next generation and messing these women's heads all up so much so that they think that twerking and bending over backwards and this, that, and the other is the way to go. And half of them got college degrees thinking that they're educated and they act less than a buffoon and a baboon. Sitting inside a civilization acting the most uncivilized. It's despicable. And men are to blame. Because for every hoe, how many men did it take to make her that way? She can't be that with one man. So for every one of them that you think ain't no good, there's a whole lot of no good men out there supporting it. So don't you ever ease off of these men's freaky backs. I agree with you. They have been pimped. And it is despicable. And it's co-signed by the entertainment industry. The man is involved in pimping them out. He's the number one pimp. Y'all ain't the real pimps. Y'all the tricks. Y'all the tricks now. The pimp is the man. He pimp them out on TV. They want to be what they see on TV. All the stars is coming out with their breasts out and their butts out, and have been since I was a child. It's just getting worse. It's more breasts and more butt and more breasts and more butt. And more grinding and grinding on the stage and more sexually provocative public gestures. It's a freak show. Y'all about 5 years from being in the Epstein files. You're perverts. You can't produce a proper man and a proper woman out your household no more. You can't raise a proper boy and a proper girl no more. And you're about to perish. You're about to perish with Babylon. And that's why I talk about relationships, because I study history avidly. I watch current events since a child. I read scriptures, both Bible and Quran, avidly. And I see you and I see me. I don't even like what I see in me from living in this hellhole. I don't even like all of what I done. But you don't have no shame. You don't have no remorse. You proud to be despicable. We need to clean it up and come back to the hierarchy. And at the top of the hierarchy is supposed to be patriarchy. And if the top of the hierarchy is patriarchy, then who are you to point fingers at the woman without having three more to point back at yourself? Stand up with me, man. Condemn this BS. Shake your head and wag your finger every time you hear it and see it. And don't be like they were in the scriptures wanting to stone the harlot. How the hell did they know she's a harlot? All sin is not equal. God, he wasn't saying all sin is equal. He was saying, how do y'all want to stone her and know that she's a harlot unless y'all was sleeping with her or know the men that did? How come you ain't stoning the men? Let's start stoning the men. Because she can't be a harlot by herself. Let's start calling the men out. And us men, let's start speaking out. That ain't right, man. You're sick in the head. Show me that you can cure your own disease in your brain, man. You out here sleeping with these women. You gonna take care of the family? You gonna take care of all them kids? If every one of them got pregnant, would you be there? Hell no, you wouldn't. Y'all can't say nothing about these people overseas. They got somewhere between 0 women and 1 woman most of the time. And every now and then one of them is wealthy and they got 2 or 3 wives. They take care of all of them permanently and the families. You is a long way from that, bruh. You was a long way from that. You done more. You ain't taking care of nobody. But you sleeping and putting your thing in everybody and exchanging bodily fluids. You're nasty. You're nasty. Then those of us that are trying to be decent, unfortunately, have to be sometimes wind up being a little nasty because you nasty because we can't keep nobody because you done contaminated them. And we trying to get all of this filth and foolishness out of them. We really wanted to have a wife. But some of the best brothers I know, strongest brothers I know, they're really struggling. You have to let your standards and guards down a little bit just to participate in this hellhole. Those that are standing strong, they gonna die out. Because this is how far gone our community is gone. This is how far gone these women have gone from you sick niggas who've sided with the colonizer to pimp out your woman. And that's why on the hierarchy of rulership, you don't show up. It's him and them, then you and your sick little self that don't want to be responsible, man. Show some responsibility. Let's talk about some dignity and respect. And let's find one that you can at least talk to and bring some heart truth to. If she don't respond to masculinity, you need to leave her alone. She's supposed to respond to masculinity. Masculinity ain't beating your chest and rah, rah, rah. Masculinity is laying down the law, man. And not worrying about what everybody else thinks. And not laying it down for your own stupid, selfish gain. But for the community, for humanity, for the collective so that we can work with cooperation and build for us a nation. You can't build it without cooperation. You can't build it without creating a win-win scenario for everybody. Stop being selfish. Stop looking out for yourself all the time. I hope I made my point. I kind of got somewhat dissuaded from my original, but it got passionate because this is what's going on in my head and showing you how they've manipulated nations with this same program, just in a different scheme. Because they want to take the ones that don't have the machismo and put them in charge so that they could be in charge. Women, stop talking about you masculine, you're masculine. You ain't got no masculine energy. Not a drop. You just abandon your femininity. You ain't been masculine for 2 seconds in your life. But you abandon femininity. How you gonna say you masculine? Your identification of masculine is being aggressive. Men amongst men aren't aggressive. I'm going to repeat that. Men, when they're around men, they not aggressive. When a man's around a man and he's aggressive, he's either called a bully or an a-hole. And other men don't gravitate to him. And his days is numbered. You better not come around these men talking about you acting aggressive. You talking about aggressive. I'm going to say what I say. I'm not going to be aggressive. I could be passionate. I'm not going to be aggressive. You got it all wrong. You're trying to be aggressive because you don't know what masculinity is because you can't know what it is because you can't never be it for 2 seconds. How you going to be masculine when I can be masculine when I'm quiet, handing out candies and crossing my legs, laid back in a chair? I'm just as masculine when I'm handing out candies as I am when I'm standing up to a bully trying to fight. There's no difference, but you just seeing the aggressiveness of it. You seeing things that are, necessities. One doesn't make me masculine than the other. I'm always masculine because masculine, the first definition is of or pertaining to men. I'm a man. And I'm a man's man. And it's not because I beat on my chest and act tough. Half the time they see me, I'm sitting quiet in the back. You ain't masculine, sister. You just been ran through. You've been abused. And you've been talked out of your femininity and grace, which was your gift from God. It's your real superpower. Somebody then talked you out of it and put you into the world thinking that you get ahead by acting aggressive. Ain't gonna get you nowhere. I could take some of these feminine women from other countries and put them in each and every one of your jobs, and they will supersede you. You know why? Because that femininity is going to garner cooperation. That's right. Femininity garners cooperation. When a feminine woman walks in a room, people want to cooperate with her. It's like magic. You're trying to get it by force, and you don't have the force of arms. So it's unbelievable. We don't believe it. We're not afraid. It's a lie. I'm not afraid. I'm just annoyed. And I want to show you what real aggression really looks like, because it's backed by the force of arms. You don't have it. Stop trying to be what you're not. Be feminine. My mama always say you get way more bees with honey than you will with vinegar. Don't let them talk you out of femininity. It's not lesser than masculinity. Masculinity is not superior to femininity. Anybody told you that, told you a lie. Femininity has advantages, lots of advantages that I will never have. I don't want them. They're yours. They're your superpowers. I got mine. I got my superpowers. You got your superpowers. I have a responsibility. And out of responsibility, when you do it naturally, I have to be the one that's benevolent. So who's really winning here? Who's really the winner? I say I got a rank of authority over you, but at the end of the day, who really wins? It's the women and the children. When men do their job properly. You guys are really the winners. Why would you disturb that? You've been tricked out of your birthright. I'm Abdul Speaks. Please like and subscribe. I know how many times I do it. I'm guilty of it. Of watching something, liking it, and not liking it or subscribing it. I don't know. We're just a quick fix world. I get caught up in it. But if you could take that extra 2 seconds and push a couple buttons, I sure would appreciate it. Don't forget, Diagram of a New World is available at Amazon by me, Abdul Speaks. I much appreciate you guys picking that up and perusing it. It is a very critical book. Doesn't talk as much about relationships, but more about the history of the world. It mixes in a lot of psychology, history, a little bit of theology to show us where we are in the world today. A lot of these things that are in this book are I wrote it 2 years ago, put it out 2 years ago, are more important today if you watch what's going on in Iran and the state of the world today. Very, very, very crucial information on where we need to be mentally and how we need to perceive the world that we live in that is collapsing. The tagline is the birth of a new mind during the collapse of a global empire. Very important, much appreciate for everyone who's already supported and bought the book. I've got nothing but great positive feedback. I'm loving, I'm very proud of this. When you write something and you feel that it actually supersedes your own intellect, like I read it myself and relearn from writing. That's the writing experience. Like, you know, I've also been a poet for a long time, and you know it's good when you write it and you're like, ooh, but you wrote it and you're like, ooh, what made me think of that? That's when you're getting that extra power out of your brain. And I feel like I know I did that in this book. So anybody that's interested in the conversations that we've had and knows me knows that I think on this level, and I would really like for you to be a part of the concept of New World thinking. So thank you all for your time. I know I kind of I missed some of the points that I wanted to make, but I got passionate about that, and I think it was important to see that this is where we are, and this is where I come from. So I don't want to be misunderstood. Nina Simone said, "Oh Lord, please don't let me be misunderstood." I don't necessarily want to be put in the category when I do speak on relationships with some of the other well-known podcasters and stuff that are talking about it, because I don't quite see it that way. I think they have some information that needed to be said, but I think they misuse it and kind of abuse it and don't really put things in their proper perspective. So I wanted to try to clear what perspective I come from. I come from a perspective of community. And I come from a perspective of men are supposed to be the major responsible figures. And yes, this has happened. Yes, this has happened. But who's the